You know what? I'll just say this. Is the grocery store going to get mad at me if I complain about the carts not being returned?
Wait, what?
Like if I come on the podcast and complain about something or talk about something,
Yeah.
am I supposed to talk about no people, places, or things while I'm here?
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope that you're having a really good day so far. If you're new here, my name is Taylor. I come to you from Baltimore City, Maryland, and here on my YouTube channel, I feature content that is generally focused on knitting and spinning. In today's episode of what I call the Thread to Mend podcast, I'm going to share with you the things that I'm currently working on in real time, which is a lot of what I've shown you the last 2 weeks, to be honest. But I have completed another skein, a third skein from the same fleece of yarn that I have right here. You'll see it's a little bit darker than the other two. It's this one here on the left, but I have been quite consistent. If you've tuned into my podcast in recent weeks, you know I'm very excited for the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival that is coming up on the first weekend of May. And my goal for myself is to spin a full 100-gram skein every week between, I guess now 3 weeks ago, and the first weekend of May. And that will allow me to clear up a little bit of space in my fleece corner of the house, which is where I have all of my raw fleeces that have been scoured and ready to comb or card in storage. And if I could clear up a little bit of space there, then I know that I will have room to bring home another half of fleece. Some of you have reached out to me about splitting fleeces. I think I've counted now 4 people that would like to split a fleece with me. So my thinking is that if at least 3 of them pull through and meet up with us at the wool barn, then we can split between us 4 or 5 or 6 people 2 or 3 fleeces. So I think what I'm going to do is create a form. If you're planning to attend the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival and you would like to split a fleece, then sign up in the link below, and that way I can coordinate things a little easier. It's difficult when I have multiple threads of messaging back and forth between various people. I don't want anyone to feel left out or forgotten, and I do want to coordinate this kind of handoff sort of thing, because I feel like half of a fleece is far more manageable, especially if you're new to spinning. I have spun now 3 skeins of yarn from this fleece that I split. I have about 100, maybe 150 at most. I think it's just 100 more grams of fiber to spin. So that's going to get me about 400, maybe 500 grams at most of yarn from half of fleece. Like I said, a lot more manageable than twice that, which can take up a lot of space and a lot of time. And I really love playing with half of a fleece because you can create a whole project, but you're not overwhelmed by the amount of it all. So that's my goal, is to bring home 1/2 of one fleece. I'm considering bringing home 2 halves of 2 fleeces if it pans out. I really don't know. I kind of just want to make sure everyone else gets what they want, because if you're interested in sharing a fleece with a person, you're spending half the amount of money, half the amount of time scouring it and then processing it, which can take a lot for especially large breed sheep. For instance, I really love spinning Cormo fiber because the staple length is nice and long. You get a really fine fiber with a good solid crimp to it that has a really nice long staple. So I love to play with fine wools, and typically a fine wool fiber comes off of a larger breed of sheep. So when I'm shopping at New York State Sheep and Wool and Maryland Sheep and Wool for fleeces, I do see that the fleeces at New York State are much more skirted. They have a lot less weight per fleece. I feel like, and I might be wrong, but I feel like typically the fleeces at New York weigh up to like maybe 8 pounds. It's more typical to find fleeces that are like 6 to 8 pounds with like these finer wool varieties. Whereas at Maryland, I think it maybe is less expensive to enter fleeces. I think less fleeces are up for, ribbons or whatever, people are really just selling all their fleeces. And there are many, many more of them. I mean, it's like, I would guess probably quadruple the quantity of fleeces. It feels like it's floor to ceiling, wall to wall fleece, and you get a lot of fiber per fleece. It's a lot less heavily skirted. You're kind of doing a lot of your own skirting some of the time. Of course, I think it depends on the fleece that you pick, but I've noticed that the fleeces at Maryland for the breeds of sheep that I typically shop for, which are sometimes merino, cormo, or a cormo cross. You do find a lot of cormo cross fleeces at Maryland and probably other festivals in general, because cormo is a bit of a popular breed. But I do find that those fleeces are like 8 to 10 pounds. And they will be priced accordingly. You are not paying the same price per pound than you would if it were more heavily skirted. I don't know if I've said this yet, but my goal every week until Maryland Sheep and Wool is to spin a skein of yarn, at least 100 grams. I don't have any concrete plans for what I'm going to make with my yarn. I kind of let the yarn speak to me, because it does take, I think, a real skill and like a true craftsmanship to blend all of your fiber exactly how you intend to spin it and make it. I've kind of just been combing fiber willy-nilly and not doing a whole lot of color management, which I think maybe I will try to do with my next attempt at spinning for a project. Right now, I'm kind of just trying to spin all the yarn that I can, kind of get my groove back. So this week I have spun a third skein from the same fleece of, I think it is merino fin cross fiber. And I would love another fleece just like this one. The crimp is a little bit more open than a lot of merino fleeces I've played with. The stable length is kind of standard for like a hand spinner's fleece. It's not too long, it's not very long, but it's not at all too short to comb and easily spin. It's been lovely to work with. It is very soft, but it's not like, it's very soft, like it's not gonna feel itchy or scratchy, but it's not so fine that it's difficult to process. And I find like when you're hand combing fine wools, none of it is hard to spin. It's like just spins itself, which I feel like this fiber has done for me. So I've really been enjoying the process of working with this fleece. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a close-up of the yarn. In person, I feel like I'm a little more forgiving. When I look at it on camera, I can see how uneven my twist looks. Oh, I'm so critical of my own work, but it's a pretty nice hand spun yarn. I will say that. I don't want to criticize it too much because there's always imperfections with hand spun yarn, and when it's under some tension, it always looks a little bit neater than when you're kind of giving it that up close look. But it feels still a tiny bit damp. Normally I hang my yarn to dry over a door, and then I will kind of turn it so that where the water really concentrated can kind of, I don't know, move through the fibers and kind of evaporate out more. But I hadn't done that because I really just hung it up to dry overnight, woke up a little bit later than normal, and yeah, this yarn is still damp. I did weigh it before I washed it, and I think it's about 110 grams or so. If I'm not, I don't remember exactly, honestly. And I haven't yet even counted the wraps, but this looks to be a DK sort of worsted weight type of yarn. So I was looking on Ravelry through my library to see what patterns I had, but I can't settle on one of them. I really have no clue what I might make with this. I'm thinking I might even just knit various hats, but I don't wear hats. It's not warm enough. I mean, it's not cold enough. It's too warm to really get much use out of hats here in Maryland. So I think ultimately, if I were to guess, I would really like to make a shawl with this yarn. I love my hand spun shawls. I don't wear each of them a whole lot because I do have a favorite right now. My favorite shawl is my green and yellow one. I'll actually just run and grab it and show it to you. I have been getting a lot of wear this year out of my range shawl, which is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. I can never exactly tell. It looks like this is the front because I know it begins with stockinette. But you kind of just transition between different textured stitch patterns and a little brioche to blend colors. There's 4 colors in this shawl. So it's about 4 grams. It's about 4 skeins of 100 grams. And I think it's a nice size. I like the asymmetrical shape of it and how I can just like throw it over very easily, and it feels like it's always styled really well. I don't ever really wear it just over my shoulders like I do other shawls, but you could always wear it like that in addition. But I think I would maybe make another asymmetrical shawl like this one. They're very simple to start and nice and small, and you feel like you get a lot of work done in a short amount of time, and then all of a sudden the rows take so long to get through. But every type of project has its own sort of vibe, and I like the projects that feel really rewarding in the beginning, and then you're so invested that you just have to finish. Like you just can't not. And at the same time, it's difficult for me at times to finish those types of projects because once you set them down, they're really difficult to pick back up. And this is making me think of Stephen West's Slipstravaganza, which I haven't touched. Certainly I have not touched it since we last spoke on the subject of this. But once I finish my Raglan, which we'll talk about in just a moment, I'm going to pick this back up and wrap it up. I'm going to finish this project because I would really love to wear these gorgeous pastels in the spring. And that's that on that. So this is still unfinished and I feel some type of way about it. There's really not that many ends to weave in except for the most recent triangle stage. There's 2 ends for every triangle, which is probably like 20. So I have about 40 ends to weave in and a lot of chevron to knit. So what I intend to do is finish my Raglan, get that new pattern in testing, and then finish the Slipstravaganza. So while I'm on the subject of that real quick, I want to show you the progress I've made on my Raglan pullover, which is quite a bit. I finished an entire sleeve. As you can see, it's a nice open shape. There is some decreasing to, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. I got mohair on my face. It's not a tapered sleeve because it doesn't have a huge sort of decrease in shape along the upper arm to forearm, but it has just enough decreases that it doesn't appear to be a wide sort of wide sleeve. And I'm very happy with the way that it fits. So I'm about to pick up and knit the second sleeve, and in doing that I'm going to craft and tune the instructions for that. One thing that I really love about the making of this sleeve is the fact that it does have a decrease round about every 2 inches, so it gives it the slightest bit of shaping that keeps the project interesting, because when you have a step to do every couple inches, it gives you something to look forward to and like work towards. So I found that the making of this sleeve took about a day. From like here to here, I did that in like 1 night because it just felt so rewarding to get to the next decrease. And then you're knitting like fewer stitches. So you're like, oh, I could just keep going. And then all of a sudden you've knit 2 inches and you're ready for the next decrease round. So the fact that decrease rounds are introduced into the sleeves, I think offers up the option for modifications so that if you do want a more fitted forearm, you could simply increase the rate of decreases, which I might consider introducing as like a modification blurb in the pattern. I haven't really decided yet. There's already so many options for modifications that I'm introducing into this written pattern, and I do intend to provide the yardage required for each additional inch you add to the body, because I do think that this will be a bit of a cropped design, and I know that not everyone is signing up for a cropped sweater. So it is my intention to have exactly how many yards of yarn would be required for each additional inch to the body. So that way, if you're modifying your sweater, you know what materials are required, which I think would be helpful to people out there. Star Baby is stuck in my yarn. All right. I don't know what I was just saying, but I do intend to post in the photos of the pattern the dimensions of the entire garment, the depth of yoke, the sleeve circumference, the sleeve length, the body length, the wrist width. All of that will be available to knitters before purchasing the pattern, which I also think is really helpful in determining whether the pattern fit is right for you, because whether you knit or not, whether you've knit a sweater before or not, you might know already what you like the fit of just based on the fact that you probably wear garments, and you can simply lay those flat, measure them out, determine, like say you have not even a sweater, maybe you have hopefully a sweater, because that's a little bit more comparable, but if you have maybe a raglan sweater, it could be a different sleeve construction, but I think comparing same to same would be the most helpful. But if you already have a raglan sweater you like the fit of, you can lay it flat, measure it out, compare those measurements to the pattern's measurements, and determine if it's the right thing for you, which I just find so valuable when designers do that. I know Jacqueline, I'm not sure how to say her last name, it's like Cislack, I think. She always publishes the dimensions of all of her patterns, and that actually gave me a lot of awareness to like, how does a larger body want to fit, and how does it look on them, and how does it look on paper? Like, what measurements are those? I do like to design for myself, for my body and my desired fit, and I will create a pattern that fits my small frame the way I like my small frame to wear it. But then when I'm designing for a larger bust, I consider the proportions that a larger designer puts out in their garments. I'm noticing sometimes with like larger designers, they will have a wider neck than I like to wear on my frame. I feel very much at ease with the continuation of this pattern. Like, I've gotten the bulk of the work out of the way. I just have to make it. So I've made a sleeve, which I feel very accomplished having done. I think what really helped was the decreases every couple inches, because you're just knitting for a little bit and then you get to a decrease round and you feel so accomplished to work through that. And then it kind of just keeps the motivation going, having something to do every few inches versus knowing, okay, I have to just knit this whole sleeve now, you know. So I like adding decreases, even if they don't bring the greatest impact. You can see that the taper is very gradual, it's very relaxed. And then I do have, I like to use 2 rounds of decreases that are a little bit more spread out to bring in the cuff. And so I've done that, and we have a little twisted rib here, just 1 inch of that. And I do need to pick up the neckband, work that out, get the body sorted, and of course write instructions for the sleeve and the bottom hem, all of those things. So I still have quite a bit to do on this. My goal is to have this fully finished to wear to the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. So this is what I'll be wearing. I hope it won't be too hot to wear mohair. But that's my goal, and I would very much like to get this pattern out in testing. Yeah, I'm a little ahead of myself right now because I need to knit it and write the pattern. I will let you know once it's ready, and I will put a Google form in the description box in a future video when I'm seeking testers for this design. I'm just so grateful to have people test my patterns that I'm very flexible with how you choose to modify it. And in fact, I want my pattern itself to be really modifiable because it's only through trial and error that I was able to figure out how to modify patterns when I started knitting garments, that I really do want to create kind of like the invitation for knitters of the world making my patterns to know how and where they can easily do that for themselves if necessary. So I feel really good about this. But before this pattern does go to testing, it does require a name, and I wonder if any of you out there can help me determine what this should be called, because I have no idea. The cable motif, it's just something I made up, so there's no referential name I can just slap on it like I have with other patterns in the past. Like the Kingston cardigan, I made it with Kingston yarn. This is knit with a very niche yarn, which I realize is probably not the best choice for self-publishing patterns, because if people can't get it, how do they know what to buy? And I am providing a yarn substitution in the pattern for this, so there is a yarn to buy. But I'm just stuck. I don't know what to call this. This pattern does not yet have a name. I'm struggling to come up with one on my own. So if you have any suggestions at all, do please leave them in the comments below. I would love to know what you would name this pattern, and hopefully we will come up with one together soon, because I just cannot think of one. I'm gonna try this on for you and show you how the sleeve is fitting. Let's do one of these. All right, so here she is. I am really happy with the look and the feel of this fabric and the sleeve. I will stand up to show you how it looks at the bottom cuff. So it is just a very straight sleeve. Nothing too dramatic, you know, it's just very much that. If you have made it this far into this week's video, let me know in a comment below with the tulip emoji. I know that these are not tulips, these are lovely and fragrant hyacinths that I was very happy to discover on my doorstep this morning. My neighbor Flash, he is an avid gardener, and he will surprise me in the spring with some fresh bulbs. So I'm really happy to have gotten those. I thought I would share them with you. And that's it for this week's episode. Again, if you have an idea for what I should name this pattern, please let me know in a comment below. And if you want to find me on social media, my name is Taylor E. Owen on Ravelry Instagram, and on TikTok you can find me as Taylor Knits. I hope you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and that you all take care. Before we go, I thought I'd show you the new spring wreath I just made. It is right here, and I think she is so cute. I do need to fix the bow a little bit. It's kind of a little crooked, but I just think it is so adorable. I love all the spring colors and foliage, and I'm really happy with it.